of distance running at Washington State. There's been a long line of amazing athletes that have come through and done some amazing things for the Cougars. And so we're excited we were excited to know that you guys have a program in the NCWA. And in general, we're just excited to hear more about a university that we've known about for a very long time.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. We are here, you are there, and you are now rocking with the best. Welcome back to another live episode of Airey Bros Radio. Tonight we're stepping onto the mat and lacing up the boots to go belly to belly with head coach at Washington State University. The Cougars Varsity Club squad, Coach Phil Burnett, is joining us this evening. But before we get rolling, you all know the drill. Make sure you hammer that like button. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and get back to the sports we love. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. As always, this episode is fueled by Black Sheep Endurance for all your ultramarathon and coaching needs. And let's not forget, folks, this is a value for value show. So if you are getting any value out of anything we're doing over here and you do feel so inclined, please click on that link, buy us a coffee. As I mentioned, Coach Phil Burnett from Washington State is joining us this evening. He's building a monster culture out there in Pullman, Washington. He was the 2025 Collegiate Champion Cup winners, meaning they had the most points across the national duels and the national tournament in Shreveport, Louisiana. Coach Burnett was named Coach of the Year for both the women's and men's team and at the 2025 Northwest Conference Championship. Without further ado, it is an honor and pleasure to have you joining us this evening. We do greatly appreciate your time. Coach Burnett, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it, Rich and Jimmy.
Yeah, we're excited to get into it. As I said, we were raised to be students of the sport. We know that there's a great culture of cross country and track and field out there in Pullman. We know that there's a great culture of high school wrestling in Washington. So we're excited to hear that you guys have a program and that you're doing great things out there. I know Mike Moyer from the NWCA has a goal of trying to get a Division I program in every state in the 50 states. So, hopefully we can help along with that. But before we get into the conversation, anything you would like to plug or promote, anywhere we can direct the fans, any recruits, anyone that has question about what you got going on out there in Pullman, the floor is yours.
We're just excited about the growth of our Northwest Conference. We have the second largest women's conference in the nation in the NCWA. We have put a heavy emphasis on our women's and men's academics. As you know, we're a varsity sports club team. We don't offer scholarships, but our kids, most of them get academic help because they've taken care of their grades. Done AP classes, college courses, running start, coming in. Something you may or may not know is our women's team is only 5 years old, Rich, and we've already won the national championship for academics twice.
Nice. Excellent.
Super excited about that.
Coach, you guys have a Instagram page that we can send people to?
Yeah, we do. It's WSU _wrestling. That's our Instagram page.
Is that both the men and the women?
Yeah, that's the men and the women. And then we have a UREC page through the university, which is wrestling.urec.wsu.edu. And that's a place where we have our website and we accept donations and things like that to help the machine roll.
Cool. We'll definitely put all that stuff in the show notes for you as well, too, see if we can get you that Airey Bros bump. Coach, we love to start off with through lines. We find as we've gotten older in life that the world gets smaller and smaller and the connections become greater and greater. And so, last year after season, Jim, we had Coach Castro on?
Yeah.
After last year, we had Jesse Castro on. He's somewhat, we claim him as a Jersey guy because he coached there for a while I guess it was when Jimmy was in high school. And so that kind of opened the door to the NCWA to us. We had Mike Moyer on a while back before Jesse. And so Jesse opened the door to the NCWA. And so we've kind of been on a little bit of a run here lately. We had Jim Genta on recently. We also had Grant Leith on. We had Chris Williamson on. And then we've also had Jimmy Overheiser on there going through a bit of a transition up there at Mercyhurst. So we're digging into the NCWA culture. And, Jim really filled us in about how it's more than just, what I guess the general population thinks of when they think of club sports at the college level, what they have in their mind versus what we actually are seeing in the NCWA. So we had Jim on. Jimmy had an in-depth conversation with him before we even got rolling to set up the interview. And he fired off a bunch of coaches that we should talk to and have on and get them on. And you were one of the names that he had mentioned. So give a shout out to Jim, but he's the one that brought us to your radar. And like I said, we've always known about Washington State, but it's great to know that there's a program out there and you guys are doing good things.
Yeah. Jesse's Coach Castro has been a mentor to me through the process. Good friend. Jim as well. The stigma of the club thing. If I had $1 for every parent that told me we're just a club team, we wouldn't have to raise money.
Right.
But this varsity club team, there's only 2 varsity club sports on the WSU campus. That's the men's rowing team and the men's and women's wrestling team. When we started that process applying about 5 years ago, they told us it couldn't be done. That's something you probably don't want to tell me because we're going to find a way to get it done. And our kids are resilient. Our team is led by a leadership of students. We have president, vice president, safety officers, treasurers, media officers, and these kids are amazing. We work together with the same common goal of treating our program as close to a NCAA D1 program that we possibly can. That being said, we've been averaging $150,000 to $200,000 a year in funds raised through several different avenues. And now we've come out with a newsletter now. We've got a great golf tournament we do every summer that's supported by alumni. And one of the biggest things I'm proud of, Rich, is our team. We do wrestling camps, and we do like 5 around the state throughout the year. And the wrestling camps all of our kids are certified clinicians through the Safe Sport. And they give back to the community when we do wrestling camps. And some of them are just high level for just high schoolers. Others are for ages 5 through 18. So it's great just to give back to the sport through those avenues of giving back to the kids, and basically it helps us fund our program.
Coach, you mentioned having the presidents and the treasurers and all the students that are part of the administration of the team. How does that work with you as a coach? How do you delegate to them? Or are they more like assistant coaches to you, or you guys coexist on the same level?
Yeah, we pretty much coexist. They are responsible for everything from meetings and putting together fundraisers. I oversee everything. We work together collectively. Our current president, Tyson Russell, this is his 2nd year. He's just done a phenomenal job. It's all about the vision of continuing to keep our club inclusive. We don't cut anybody. We'll start the season out with 70 kids. And now we're finishing the season with about 25 men and 18 women at conference tournaments. So, yeah, this couldn't be done without the officers. They work hand in hand with Melanie Rossetti and Joanne Green, who and Marie Bentonetti, who are our UREC club advisors. And so it's really a village, Jimmy, that takes care of this program.
Coach, is this your 10th or 9th year with the program?
This is my 9th year.
Ninth year with the program, and you've already kind of alluded to that it's ever evolving. What does the beginning in 2016 look like, and how has it changed now?
Well, that's a good question. And how many hours you got? So I was supposed to be retired from coaching, but my neighbor, Hunter Haney, who happened to be our first All-American here at Washington State, I trained him to a state title back in high school, and he came to Washington State and joined the club team and made it to nationals, and his coach couldn't make the trip, and so they hired me as an emergency coach. And so I went down to Allen, Texas with 9 guys. We took top 10 in the country, and Hunter almost won it all, took third. And that kind of hooked me in, so to speak. And from that point on, I just started taking charge of recruiting and fundraising. My biggest thing, guys, is we need wrestling at major universities, whether it be D1 stuff, club stuff, whatever. We're the only, major university that has the kind of program that is capable of being built here in Washington State. We have, 12 teams in our conference now. Our conference is growing. I'm the conference commissioner. But there were times back in the 16s and 17s where, I'd come in the room and there was only just a couple of guys. We just grinded through it, and pretty soon we had 50, 60 guys turning out, and I was able to get the recruiting ball rolling. And mostly the recruits come to us because number one, they got to be able to get into the university. Number two, they need to have the dream of building their resume and their for their education, for their careers. And we put an emphasis on that. Our men's team, out of 89 teams last year, was top 5 academically, and our women's team, like I mentioned before, won the academic national title. So we put a heavy emphasis on that. But at the same time, we offer high competitive. I mean, the NCWA is competitive. It's the real deal. We just went down the national duels with a pretty good squad, and our women took 5th and the men took 7th, and we're just continuing to reach out to the communities to try to get the wrestlers that are here in Washington State not to leave home. That's pretty much our goal.
Coach, we want to get into all that stuff with you, but we also want to hear your origin story. You mentioned you had coached one of your athletes in high school. What's your origin story to the sport? Are you a Washington native? And how did your origin into the sport of wrestling lead you into coaching?
Yeah, that's another hour. Originally, I was a 3-sport athlete in school. I started wrestling to be a better football player.
Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, I started wrestling so that I could learn how to control my body. And
yeah.
If you can control your own body, you can control somebody else's. So I was a 3-sport athlete: football, wrestling, and baseball. Had dreams and goals of being a professional baseball player. I was a catcher back in the day. Had a cannon for an arm. I mean, my pop time was the same as Johnny Bench. Those that are old school know who he is. So I was lucky enough to coach in my junior high and high school wrestling. I was a pretty good wrestler in high school. Didn't wrestle in college or nothing like that, but ended up going straight into the semi-pros. I was in the Mariners Development League and needed a place to work out, so I called Gary Mogensen, my old coach, had moved from my high school in the Seattle area, Tukwila Foster High School. He had moved to Federal Way, and I was living in Federal Way at the time with my wife, and I just needed a place to work out, to stay in shape, because back in those days they didn't have select baseball workout facilities, none of that stuff. And Coach Mogensen invited me in. I was rolling with the guys, having fun, and he said, "You look like you're having fun. How about we pay you to do this?" I said, "Okay." And so, I mean, I was a broke semi-pro baseball player, so I'll take any extra money you got. And then the next thing you know, he retired from coaching, and at the age of 22, I was hired as the head wrestling coach at Federal Way High School. And back in those days, you were pretty much a teacher if you were coaching. I was an out-of-building coach, and was there for 10 years, and just fell in love with the guys, fell in love with the sport. Ended up putting my cleats away about halfway through and just focused on coaching. And then got out of coaching in the early 90s. And then when my youngest son was born in 96, around the age of 5, he said, "Dad, I want to wrestle." So I took him to a youth wrestling program called the White River Yellow Jackets, or White River Hornets at that time. So we went in there and ran into a bunch of guys that I used to compete against, and I ended up helping run that program for 5 years. And then after I retired from that, I just started tutoring high school wrestlers from our local area in Enumclaw. And that's how I met Hunter Haney. Was one of my son's teammates. That's how I met Hunter. And I want to say in my little wrestling room there, we ended up with 6 state champions in 4 years and 11 medalists. So we just put in extra work, weekends, evenings, and it was just a lot of fun helping these young men develop their skills.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach, I'm curious, we were doing cross-country, track and field, and wrestling. We consider ourselves multi-sport athletes, but we do promote it as well. We think it's great not to specialize, especially at an early age. I'm curious, did you come to, as a football player, if I wrestle, I'm going to be a better football player? Or was there a coach somewhere along the line that was like, "Hey, you need to come do this wrestling stuff. It's going to make you a better football player"?
Yeah, I both coached. I was coached by Mike Heward. His sons, Brock and Damon, both spent many years in the NFL, and Brock's an ESPN analyst now. Mike was also our assistant wrestling coach, but it was Gary Mogensen. I was pretty good in junior high. He actually pulled me in from junior high and to wrestle with the high school kids. But he was my mentor. He was and still is to this day.
Okay.
Coach, I was catching up on a podcast that the wrestling program had. It was like a coffee talk podcast. There was a lady who was interviewing people from the team, interviewing yourself. And correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear correctly? You live 5 hours away and you live in a camper or double wide during the season?
Yeah, so I live in Enumclaw, which is 5 hours to the minute from Pullman. I started out my first 6 years here living in my motorhome. I found different places to put it and was lucky enough to have people in the community that supported what I was doing here and gave me cheap rent because I volunteered and partially funded the program for the first 5 years. And then lost my motorhome spot a couple of years ago, which was kind of a blessing because I don't have to worry about the pipes freezing and stuff like that no more. And so now my wife and I rent apartment in September through March here in Pullman. And that's where I reside during the season. And on weekends that we don't compete, I go back over to the west side to see my family when she's not here traveling with me.
During that 6 years when the pipes were freezing or you had to winterize the camper if you're going on a trip, was there any thought that went through your brain of what am I doing?
Oh yeah. One winter, it was only a few years ago, we had 15 below and it lasted for like a week. I couldn't even turn on the water with my heated hose because once it got in the motorhome, it would have froze up. So I was literally camping. Luckily, the guy that I rented the space from had a shop with a usable restroom that was within walking distance and whatnot. And then of course we have incredible facilities here at WSU. So I was able to use the rec center for workouts and showers and hot tubs and things like that, you know. So but yeah, there was many times I would want to call Hunter and chew him out for, how'd you get me into this, buddy? And now he's the head coach. He's going to be the head coach soon, hopefully. He's grooming they're grooming him to be the head coach at Enumclaw soon. So him and I are still incredible friends. I have two sons of my own, but Hunter's just like a son to me.
Rich, that living in the camper sounds like our style, huh?
Absolutely. I was gonna say, Coach, one of the reasons why we do stuff is to get stories like this out because, I think more people need to know about coaches that are so dedicated, that they're willing to live in a motorhome for this time of the season, be 5 hours away from their home and their family to help young men and women, be student athletes, be college athletes, achieve their goals, be all Americans, national champions, that sort of stuff. Like that's an amazing. We had Coach Bradley Satter on from the University of Cumberland's. He's the track and field cross country coach there. He lives 2 hours away from his family. His family lives 2 hours away, but he couldn't pass up the job because he was a alumni there. And so I just think the world needs to hear these kinds of stories and those amazing things. But yes, living in a motorhome and coaching is right up our alley and something that we have many daydream conversations about post shows when we do these things.
It's a nice motorhome, but it was kind of a hallway because I can't put the bump outs out in the wintertime because all that stuff would just freeze up, So, but I would do it again.
Coach, correct me if I'm wrong. Are your sons on the staff with you or were on the staff with you?
So my oldest son, Kyler Burnett, he's a Microsoft coder. He's one of our biggest financial supporters. He was a travel coach for us for many years. Microsoft's kind of going through some restructuring and he's got a very important job. So he's unable to travel with us this year. But Kyler and Cordell, my two boys, both wrestled in high school. They wrestled for a dominating Enumclaw team that won 4 straight state titles in a row. And Kyler was instrumental in helping me train those 11 state medalists that came and the 6 state champions that came out of Enumclaw and Bonnie Lake High School that I worked with over the years. Yeah, he's an amazing young man. Hopefully we'll get him back into the fold.
Coach, what is the culture of high school wrestling in Washington State? How many state champions are there? How many classifications are there? Is there a strong club culture?
Yeah, Washington State has some incredible wrestlers. There's a 1A, 1B, 2A, 3A, 4A. They just got done with the Tacoma Dome MAC Classic National High School State Championships. It's a big event. I don't do a bunch of recruiting there. I pretty much let the kids have their day. They've been working for that their whole lives. I don't go there and shove business cards at them and things like that. We already kind of know. I mean, we've already got 15 men committed for next fall and about 13 women committed to an incredible young team that were taken into conference and nationals this year. I mean, we have out of the 39 kids that were taken into conference, 27 of them have a 3.3 or higher GPA. And I want to say 21 of them are freshmen.
Wow. Now, Coach, with the Northwest Conference, you mentioned that's the biggest, second largest women's conference, or it's the biggest women's conference?
Second largest. The
Second
Southwest
largest?
has the biggest,
Okay.
and then the Northwest is second.
And is that teams from Washington, Oregon? What is
Yeah,
the makeup of that?
That's a good question, Rich. So our conference is made up of the out-of-state teams are University of British Columbia,
Okay.
University of Oregon, University of Idaho, Montana State University, Treasure Valley Community College out of Ontario, Idaho, Jamestown University from South Dakota is coming in as a D2 transition team this year.
Okay.
And then our Washington teams are Western Washington University, University of Washington Huskies, Pacific Lutheran University out of Tacoma, Central Washington University, Eastern Washington University, and Washington State University.
Okay. So I guess the club culture in college wrestling, the NCWA culture in Washington is pretty strong and thriving with that many schools.
Yeah, and the only other two schools with college wrestling at all is Evergreen State and Big Bend Community College out of Moses Lake.
Okay.
And they're NAIA and JUCO respectively.
Okay, cool.
Coach, you mentioned having a young team. I believe you said 21 freshmen with 3.0 or 3.2 or higher. How's the season going for you so far? I know you mentioned national duels. The men got 7th, women got 5th. How's the season going?
Well, the season's going pretty good. We've been injury riddled. Knees, shoulders, ankles, just the three worst things that a wrestler can get. And if we can get healthy, we're going to make a good run. I see us. The men's team has been up in that top 5 every year recently, and I see us being there again. With Menlo making the transition, they're still in the NCWA, and Tarleton, who isn't a transition team yet, but they're unbelievable. But yeah, I'm really confident if we can just get healthy that we'll be right there. Our women's team as well, just a bunch of young, hard-working girls. We have our returning national champ, Erin Kremer from Richland High School in Tri-Cities. She's our 240-pounder. She's returning. I fully expect her to repeat. And we've got some girls that are going to contend for a national title, and a handful of guys too. We've been lucky enough, and I tell people the harder we work, the luckier we get, to roll out 10 All-Americans like 2 years in a row now with the men and the women. So I think since I've been coaching, we're up to around 30 All-Americans. So
that's got to help with recruiting, right?
Yeah, and we would like to continue that. We had our first men's national finalist last year. Interesting story. My first women's All-American and women's finalist was a girl named Julie Wilson out of Mount Vernon High School. And her brother Ryan is a 2-time All-American for us, and he was our first men's finalist.
Oh, that's awesome.
So runs in the family.
A brother and sister, yeah. Ryan's goal is to get in there and mix it up and win it this year. So,
what weight is he at?
141.
141. Okay.
Yeah.
Coach, so being in the NCWA for 9 years as a coach, it seems like it's ever evolving, and there's more and more teams that are utilizing it as a transition platform between divisions. And it just seems like every year it's getting more and more competitive. What's the key to evolving with that as a varsity club sport?
I think, Jimmy, for us, the key is getting to, we take our men's team down to Vegas to Desert Duels with Wartburg College every year. The competition there is fierce. And then going to national duels, mixing it up in there with the top teams like, Liberty and Apprentice and Utah Tech and Tarleton. To us, that's the key, is getting our guys to the competitions. And our travel budget's $120,000 a year because of where we live. We've got to get outside of our conference to get to the best competition in the nation as much as we possibly can. And I think that helps us a lot when we get down to Shreveport.
So you mentioned that competition going up against some of the top teams from every level. In the recruiting process, when you're recruiting athletes, and obviously the NCWA, people always think, oh, that's that club thing. And Jim Gento was the first to correct me. It's not club wrestling, the wrestling programs, right? And you guys are competing against the best of the best. Is there an education process when you're recruiting people of what the NCWA is about?
Yeah, there is. The biggest thing is to let them understand that we're not a wrestling factory. We're an academic institution. And the fact that they can come and get their degrees. I mean, I don't know the exact number right now, but we've probably got 10 mechanical engineers on our team. These guys have heavy loads. We've got animal science majors, kinesiology majors, computer science majors, nurses, business majors. I mean, from all walks of life. And my policy is your schoolwork comes first, and it's done on an honor system. I'm not stupid. I'm sure I've had guys miss practice saying they were studying before, but that's on them, and it'll show up on Saturday or Sunday when we compete. But to me, that policy has been there from day one, and that's what it's really all about. Our goal is when a student comes to Washington State and joins the varsity wrestling team, that they leave a better person. My wife and I help them with their resumes. We help them with letters of recommendations. We have a 3-time All-American, Petra Bernston, is now in pharmacy. She got into pharmacy school. So unfortunately that's in Spokane, so she can't wrestle with us now. But her professor said that the recommendation letter from the wrestling coach was one of the best that he's ever seen. And so we kind of hang our hat on that. As far as the recruiting goes, I got to be honest with you guys. I have more people reach out to me than I reach out to them. I don't have a budget to travel the state. And although when I go home in December for break, I spend 99.9% of my time going to high school events and recruiting and handing out business cards at local tournaments and things, and trying to get people to realize that, if your son's not getting the big D1 scholarship that you thought he was going to get or whatever, we're here. And when they reach out to us and contact us, I simply follow up. We have a procedure where we send them the recruiting packet, all of our information, pictures of our wrestling room, pictures of our team, and anything we can do to entice them to stay at home and not travel. And what I'm starting to get the parents to realize that, oh, well, my son's got a D3 offer in Iowa. Well, every time you want to go watch him, you got to take Thursday and Friday off of work. You got to get on an airplane. You got to get a hotel. You got to eat out. And it's costing thousands of dollars for you to go watch your son or daughter wrestle back in wherever. Whereas here I tell them, hey, you can have everything you need and be a half a tank or a tank of gas from home.
Yeah, and I would I would imagine too, like whether it's legacy with parents or relatives that have gone to Washington State, or just kids that want to stay home. Um, that's a viable option for them. And then I think the other thing that we've been dispelling the stigma or the thought is that like, oh well, a varsity club, well, they're not meeting 5 days a week or 6 days a week, or they're not traveling for competitions, or oh well, it's just a NCWA national tournament, and then they get there and it's a 64-man bracket, and their eyes are like saucers because it's got just as many mats as NCAAs. The finals are on a platform. They've got the fireworks, the smoke, and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, this is really is the real deal. And like you said, I can stay close to home. My parents can come, my family can come be a part of it, and I'm getting real deal competition.
Yeah, Rich, we do get a lot of legacy. My parents went to
Mhm.
WSU, and we do get a lot of that, and that's really awesome. But I will second you on that. The NCWA does it right. They are a professional organization that I'm extremely proud to be part of.
Yeah, and to get that many people to Shreveport, Louisiana to watch a wrestling tournament is pretty impressive in and of itself.
Well, what's impressive is getting 30 athletes down there. We can't afford to fly into Shreveport, so we fly into Texas and then drive 3.5 hours. Um, we're one of the largest teams in the country, and I fully plan to qualify about 34, 35 athletes. Um, I mean, we've already purchased 40 airplane tickets for the coaches and the athletes. We purchased them back in December because they were affordable then. So we're gearing up and getting ready to see whose name goes on those tickets.
Where is the conference championship at?
Beasley Coliseum. We're lucky enough to host
Okay.
the conference championships for the second year in a row, right here at home in Pullman and Beasley. And we've got a target on our back, but our men and women fully expect to repeat and win the conference title. Although being a victim of my own success, I guess you could call it, is I have some coaches in this conference that have bought into what we're doing, and they try to model their programs as close to what we do, and they're doing it. And I'm so proud of what these teams are doing, especially Idaho and Treasure Valley. They are just phenomenal, and so I love it when the competition gets better. So our guys are going to have to work for it. I'm excited about that.
The rising tide rises all ships, right?
That's right.
Coach, you've mentioned academics a lot, how that is key. And it seems like at Washington State that you guys have some no joke academics. As far as internships and getting hired out of college, are there programs like that at the university?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, especially the young freshmen coming in, their parents are like, "Well, do you guys wrestle all year round?" The answer is no. um, our guys, the minute they get out of school in May, they'll go on a trip with their family or something, and then they're grinding. They're working um, internships, or they're working in their hometowns, making money to help pay for their educations. Um, Susan and I do probably 10 or more internship letters of recommendation a year. Um, it's really exciting to watch. Like our first All American girl, Julie Wilson, just landed her a mechanical engineering job in the Seattle area. So she's over on the west side and practically a neighbor to us now. And we have Susan and I have been able to build relationships pretty much for life through this, you guys. And that's kind of our motto at Washington State is all in and friends forever. So
I like
So,
that.
yeah,
I might have
yeah,
to put
definitely.
that on a t-shirt.
right.
That might be our new catchphrase, Jim.
Yeah.
All in and friends for life.
That's it.
I love it.
Coach, you mentioned making those lifelong relationships with your athletes. What's it like for you to see these student athletes go on and get these amazing jobs and careers and be truly successful?
It means everything, Jimmy. That's really what it's all about. Um, of course, as they get established in their careers, we send them more and more donation information.
I was just going to ask, how long into their successful career do you wait till you hit them up for a donation?
Yeah, so I mean, that's what makes the engine go. We got to put, you know, a lot of people want heat out of the fireplace without putting the wood in, and you can't just put the wood in. You got to fall the tree, you got to peel the bark, you got to cut it up, you got to split it up, you got to stack it, let it dry, and then put it in the fireplace. Then you got to start the fire, then you got to feed it. So that's what we're doing here at Washington State, is trying our best to just continue the process with our alumni, getting them behind us and to support us, much like the crew does. The men's rowing team has that established, and we work directly with some people on the men's crew fundraising committee that are assisting us. We have an all-in challenge where you can do a perpetual donations. We have about 12 of them, the $100 a month perpetual. Our goal is 50. We have lots of different avenues for the alumni to get involved. We've got a pretty darn good group of alumni, some guys that wrestled back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s that are coming to the event. We're trying to get a little reunion going there at Beasley Coliseum with some of the old school guys, and letting them see and understand that the wrestling in the Palouse is alive.
Gotcha.
Coach, you mentioned the travel budget, you mentioned the fundraising and sending those donation slips to the alumni. Does raising all that money year in and year out, does that weigh on you?
It does, but it's part of the commitment to what we're doing. I'm a paid coach now. It's part of being a varsity program. You have to have a paid coach with benefits, and we have to raise every penny of that. I more look at it as a labor of love, because it's like the golf tournament. My goal has always been our golf tournament alone to make enough money to take care of the coach's salary only, because technically, other than the kids coming to golf, I'm the one that puts in the work, and my wife Susan. None of this gets done without her. I'm going to mention that right straight up.
Shout out
Allowing
to
me to,
Susan.
yeah, shout out to Susan, allowing me to do this. And I have some incredible coaches too that volunteer their time. We've got Robert Garcia, who's an Enumclaw coach, is helping us out this year. And I have an incredible lady named Andrea Yamamoto. Andrea is just a godsend to me and to our wrestling family. She really mentors the girls. She was a world team member back in the 90s. She's trained with the best in the world, the Steiners and all the above. And she wishes she had what we're doing back when she started wrestling, And so she's a big advocate for the sport, travels the country speaking and promoting women's wrestling. And I'm excited because this year I just found out that our NCWA national tournament is medaling in the top 8 for the women this year. So it started out top 4, then it went to top 6, and we've grown so much, you guys, that it's top 8 for All American this year. I'm super excited about that.
And I think it's also unique to mention too. I believe Jim mentioned it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I overheard him, but I thought he mentioned the women in the NCWA do folk style, correct?
We're the only college wrestling affiliation in the country that has folk style national championships. And to be honest with you guys, I get a lot of girls because of that.
Yeah, I would imagine because folk style is what they all do in high school, and I would imagine
Yeah.
if they're not like going to Fargo and doing that aspect of it, maybe the state doesn't even have a girls' federation, that the the folk style is an appealing, helping with recruiting as opposed to, well, I got to go here and try to learn a new style. I'm going to stick to what I know and what I do best.
Yeah, and we do freestyle early in the season because every tournament we go to, whether it be the Evergreen Open, the Spokane Open, the Eastern Oregon Mountaineer Open, um, if we wrestle Big Bend, they're all freestyle only, and so our girls do both. And then as we get towards the second half of the season, where we are now, we strictly focus on folk style because our national duels tournament is folk style, our conference tournament, and our national tournament is folk style for the ladies.
Okay. Yeah, we mentioned the golf outing a few times, and I'm curious, what came first? Wrestlers are into golf, or golf outings became a fundraiser? Because it seems like a lot of coaches that we talk to are avid golfers. So I'm curious, did they become avid golfers because of the golf outings, or were they already avid golfers and they said, hey, this would be a great way to raise money for the program?
That's a good question, Rich. Well, most wrestlers are horrible golfers, but they have fun doing it.
Yeah.
We we just have an incredible support group of people that everybody from my friends, neighbors, relatives, old wrestling buddies, kids that I coached back at Federal Way High School back in the 80s and 90s. They come out once a year and just support the program big time. This year we had something that's never happened is all the prize money that was given out all got donated back to the program.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, we do corporate sponsorships, we do lots of signage. But our golf tournament it's so much fun, and it creates great camaraderie with the kids and the old school alumni
Hmm.
and the supporters of the team. It's just a great event. We do it every summer and like around the end of July.
Okay. Jim, maybe we need to start sponsoring holes at golf outings.
Rich, you're kind of on the same frequency as me because I was thinking there's so many golf outings. Either need
Get
to
it?
do that or we need to start golfing so we have an excuse.
Well, you can start by sponsoring our golf
All
tournament.
right.
All right, we'll get a hole.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
plan.
Maybe the long drive contest.
Yeah, we do all that. We This year we did something different as we had some corporate guys sponsor the event as well as a hole. So hole sponsors start out at 500 or they go to 1,000, and then the event sponsor is 2,000 or above. And we had a couple companies that did event sponsorships, which was just phenomenal.
All right, awesome. Think we might be in for a hole, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds like an excuse to make a trip too, Rich.
I love. They used to say that Pullman, Washington, was the Rift Valley of Washington State because they had all the Kenyan athletes that were running for them back in the day.
Yeah.
Phil, I'm curious. As I mentioned, we talked to Mike Moyer a while back, and his goal of the NWCA is to get a Division I program in every state. We know that they had some with the roster caps and stuff. They had to do some adjusting with the track and field program, and they kind of went to a distance specific stuff and made some cuts. Is there ever any talk of the Varsity Club program making some headway to becoming a NCAA sanctioned sport?
Not really.
Yeah.
The amount of money that it takes to start a Division I program is astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask me, does the university support you guys and this and that? Well, we own $75,000 worth of brand new wrestling mats for one. That didn't come out of our club budget. They give us the ability to schedule and travel. I mean, we travel. We have like 13 outings. Like we're booked every weekend from mid-October all the way till March. Um, they support us 100% when it comes to keeping the club inclusive, so that whether you're a 3-time state champion, which we have on our team, or if you're a kid that never medaled in high school, two of my former All-Americans never even won a high school medal. So as far as the D1 thing goes, let's just say they said we're starting a D1 program. Well, if they want to use our wrestling mat, we'll have to rent it to them unless they buy their own. We probably wouldn't stop doing what we're doing. I have some athletes on my team that could wrestle in a D1 room. There's no doubt in my mind. But could they do it and still carry a 3.8 and a 3.9 and a 4.0 like they do? I don't know. The one thing about it is we get a lot of high level guys, Rich, that have been wrestling since they were little kids. They don't want to give up the sport, but they can't afford to be married to it anymore.
Right.
And what we do is we give them the forum to make it happen, to where, you only have X amount of years in your body to compete at high levels. And so I'm just super proud that we have that avenue for these guys to continue with their wrestling careers.
Yeah, it is a 103-pound senior in high school. The NCWA would have been a great thing to have in 1994. That would have maybe been an option for me to go that route and continue the love and not do the cross country and track and field, or maybe do all three, be a multi-sport athlete in college.
Coach, I appreciate you saying that they still love the sport, but they can't afford to be married to it anymore. And I don't think enough young student athletes are honest with themselves about that crossroads. I know I wasn't. Rich will tell you I took the long route to graduating college. I had a couple different lives in college to get my undergrad, but I think that's something that kids need to really talk to themselves and talk to their parents about, because how many times you see great wrestlers that finish school and they don't have a career because they were focused on wrestling, or they have to open up a wrestling club or be a wrestling coach because that's the only avenue. Now you're giving kids the opportunity to still wrestle at college but start great careers.
Yeah, Jimmy, and one of the things we're most proud of at Washington State is, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think we're up to 35 kids that I've coached that are now coaching wrestling.
Nice.
In 9 years. So we're averaging four or five guys a year coming out of our program that are coaching somewhere. Couple of them in college, several of them in high school, and a lot of them in youth wrestling and different sports clubs. And I want to say about a dozen of them are teachers, and that's what our sport lacks right now is qualified coaches that are teachers.
Yep. And
so we really hang our hat on that fact that we've been able to put out so many coaches, and there's going to be a ton more. These kids are awesome. They're super focused, and like, just a lot of them, their goal is to get their businesses and get things squared away to where they can give back and coach someday.
Rich, how many times do we hear people say that, the sport is having trouble because we're not putting out enough coaches, right? And that's the whole purpose of having kids wrestle in college, to be able to give back and have programs past, them wrestling in college.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, what Coach was saying kind of rings true. What Coach Nucci was saying back in New Jersey is that there's more and more teachers that are not in the building anymore at the high school level. And I mean, it's as someone who teaches physical education and coaches, it's such a um, it's almost a necessity. I feel like I wouldn't want to be out of the building and not, and be a coach because you have so much connection, control of what's going on day to day. You can keep a handle if, God forbid, you have discipline problems. You can kind of squash those things and get a handle on kids. Um, so we need teachers and we need good coaches. So that's great to hear.
Final four, Rich.
Let's do it.
All right. Coach, are you a coffee drinker?
An occasional mocha.
All right.
Not a black coffee guy.
You making that yourself or you going somewhere?
Usually try to support the smaller companies in town.
All right.
You got a favorite one?
Usually grab a cup on my way out of town on that 5-hour drive.
You have a favorite shop in Pullman?
I don't even know the name of it. It's a little. It's actually in Colfax.
Okay.
Right down the street.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Coug, big time Coug supporters. They put our bumper stickers on their windows and stuff like that for us.
Nice. Right on. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Phil Burnett?
Oh, I just we do practice 5 days a week, by the way. 2 hours a day. We're down to about an hour and a half as we enter the postseason. My ritual is basically just when you walk in our wrestling room, I want you to let it all go and just have some fun. Wrestling's hard enough. If you're not having fun, probably not going to do it for very long, especially at this level. You're not doing it for your folks no more. You're not doing it for pretty much anybody but you. And so I just try to have the ABCs, the attitude, the belief, and the commitment. Have an attitude of gratitude and try to keep things light and fun, but at the same time, keep hard work in the forefront.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcast, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I'm an old school rocker. Give me some Led Zeppelin, some Styx, some AC/DC, Fleetwood Mac. I always get flack in my wrestling room when I try to get my phone on the boom box.
Well, we be rocking with it, that's for sure, right, Jim?
Yes, I'm down with all that.
Yeah.
Coach, last one we got for you. It's a lighthearted one to close it out. Maybe it's a unique food item out there on the West Coast that we're not sure about over here on the East Coast, or Jimmy's in Wyoming now, but he was on the East Coast a couple days ago. Maybe it's a beverage. We know there's a great craft beer scene in Washington and the Pacific Northwest as well. We mentioned golf. Maybe you're a golfer. We've had some fishermen on. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
I'm a big fisherman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a nice little boat. My wife and I take the month of June every year and go up to a little lake in northeast Washington, and we take the 34-foot hallway with us, and we're able to put the bump outs out and enjoy the sun and just go trout fishing and kokanee fishing, and my family comes up and hangs out with us. Just being with my family. We're away from each other quite a bit, and that's my biggest guilty pleasure. And as far as food goes, I make a pretty mean rack of ribs. So
let's go.
Yeah.
Coach, you're living it up. You had an RV and a boat. Did you have them both at the same time?
Yeah, I bought the RV when the kids were little, and then bought a boat from a customer of mine. I'm actually a contractor by trade, which I'm pretty much almost done with. I just do select jobs now, but yeah, my boat is my baby, and of course, you know what boat stands for. Break out another 1,000.
Yeah.
But it's all set up, man. I got the downriggers, I got the kicker motor, I got the fish finders, and it's a fishing machine. It says right on the side, fishing machine.
Nice. You take any epic road trips with the RV when you had it?
Never really took it out of the state. There's so much to see in the state of Washington. You know, we've been out to the coast several times, out by Nia Bay and the Cape, um, all around Mount Rainier. But mostly, I'm a destination guy. I'm going here, and I go there and get set up, and the place where we go, it's as close to heaven as you can get, in my opinion. So we just stay there.
Okay. Being a lifelong native of the state of Washington, have you ever encountered Sasquatch?
I had a few wrestlers that looked like one. But
Good
no,
answer.
no, that's about it.
Okay.
Male wrestlers, I should say, that look like one.
Right on.
Coach Burnett, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for everything that you do for the student athletes at WSU, and can't wait to watch you and the Cougars for the rest of the season and see what you guys do at National. So thank you so much for your time this evening.
I appreciate that, Jimmy and Rich. It was great to meet you guys. So if somebody wants to view this, can they, even though it's not live, can they get in YouTube and view it somehow?
You know, it's live. I'll send you the link when we're done.
And then anybody I send it to could view it?
Yes, sir. And then we'll talk about it when Rich logs us off.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Absolutely, Coach. Honor and a pleasure to chat with you tonight, chop it up a little bit, learn a little bit about you, the program, and the university. As Jimmy said, best of luck in the postseason with the conference championship coming up, and down in Shreveport. You never know, you might see the two Airey Bros down there. Jim was trying to get us wrangled down there to do some coverage. So once Jimmy gets settled out in his new digs in Wyoming, maybe we might make that happen. But we also stay in touch about getting our name on one of those holes this summer.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Coach Phil Burnett from Washington State University. Go give the Cougars some love. Let them know the Airey Bros sent you. That is it for us this week. We hope you enjoyed our shows last night and tonight.